For over 200 years, the seasons have come and gone, quietly shaping one of Central Kentucky's best-kept secrets. Welcome to HollyRood, a place where brick and timber bear the weight of Kentucky's early statehood, and where every hallway echoes with the voices of its storied past. Built over 2 centuries ago, this home tells the story of not just a man, but a movement, of governance, education, conflict, and legacy. And at the center of that story stands James Clark, lawyer, judge, congressman, and Kentucky's 13th governor. Born in Virginia in 1779, James Clark moved to Kentucky with his family as a young man. He studied law at Transylvania University, the state's first college, and began a legal practice in Winchester. There, he quickly made a name for himself, first as a state legislator, then as a U.S. congressman. In 1813, while still in his early 30s, Clark began construction of the mansion that would become his legacy. Built in the federal style by noted architect Thomas Metcalf, who would himself become a Kentucky governor, the home took shape on 25 acres of land along the Lexington-Winchester Road. Clark named the home HollyRood, a reference to the Scottish HollyRood Palace, and filled it with imported finishes, including carved mantels and staircases that still survive today. The home's symmetry, classical proportions, and refined brickwork spoke to both wealth and intellect. Though no documentation survives, the house was almost certainly built with enslaved labor, both in its construction and its operation, an uncomfortable but necessary truth. Clark's mansion served not just as a residence but as a political and cultural hub. From 1814 until his death in 1839, Clark hosted judges, lawmakers, and neighbors beneath its high ceilings and wide porch. James Clark was elected governor in 1836 and served until his death 3 years later. His administration focused on expanding public education and reforming Kentucky's criminal code. But his legacy goes deeper. Years before becoming governor, Clark played a pivotal role in one of the fiercest legal debates in Kentucky history, the Old Court-New Court controversy. In the aftermath of the Panic of 1819, the state legislature attempted to dissolve its Court of Appeals and replace it with judges more favorable to debt relief. Clark, then a circuit judge, ruled the legislative act unconstitutional. The controversy would rage for years, but Clark's stance on judicial independence helped preserve the integrity of Kentucky's legal system. When he died in office on August 27, 1839, he became the first Kentucky governor to pass away while serving. He is buried not far from his beloved home. In the decades after Clark's death, HollyRood changed hands. One of its most compelling occupants was a teenage girl named Maddie Wheeler. Born in 1845, Maddie moved into the mansion with her family during the Civil War era. She was just 16 when she began keeping a diary that chronicled life during one of the most tumultuous periods in American history. Her entries, sometimes mundane, sometimes chilling, give us a rare, personal view of the war as it touched Kentucky soil. She wrote of soldiers camped in nearby fields, of shortages and sorrow, and of her family's day-to-day experiences navigating a deeply divided community. She described trips into town, concern for her older brother serving in the Confederacy, and even her fears during nearby skirmishes. In one entry, she wrote of candlelight prayers when gunfire echoed through the hills. In another, she helped tend to a wounded soldier her family sheltered for 2 nights in the parlor.
A soldier passed through our town today. His leg, wrapped in linen, was dark with dried blood. He smiled at us as he tipped his cap, and I cried without knowing his name.
Maddie's diary remains one of the most intimate and vivid records of daily life in Clark County during the Civil War, offering a young woman's emotional landscape against a backdrop of national strife. HollyRood is more than a home. It's a touchstone, a place where we remember what Kentucky was and dream of what it could be. Within its walls, voices linger. The principled determination of James Clark, the quiet reflections of Maddie Wheeler, the enduring care of families who made this place a home, and the passion of a community that refused to let this house fade into history. Today, HollyRood stands not only as a preserved architectural treasure, but as a living, breathing archive of Kentucky's past. During the mid-19th century, HollyRood belonged to prominent families such as the Wheelers, the Stewarts, and the Beckners, names woven into Clark County's history. Later, in 1903, the mansion was purchased by Floyd Day, a wealthy timber baron known as the Timber King of the Mountains. Day modernized the home, adding electricity and plumbing, and turned HollyRood into a place of social gatherings. Elegant garden parties filled the lawn with laughter, music, and the sound of Winchester's leading citizens. It was a house alive with energy once again. But time has a way of testing even the grandest places. By the 1920s, the mansion had shifted roles. The Winchester Board of Education acquired the property, and the once proud home became a school building. Generations of children walked its halls, perhaps unaware that they were learning within the walls of a governor's mansion. By mid-century, however, HollyRood stood in decline. Windows broken, roof leaking, plaster peeling. By the 1960s, it was abandoned. There was talk of demolition. Some even considered replacing the mansion with a parking lot. For HollyRood, the end seemed near. But in Winchester, history had its defenders. Local citizens, led by the Clark County Historical Society and community leader Frank Downing, refused to let HollyRood disappear. They rallied together, determined to save the home from destruction. In 1974, their persistence paid off. The Winchester-Clark County Heritage Commission was formed, dedicated solely to preserving the county's historical treasures. Just 2 years later, in 1976, the Board of Education officially deeded HollyRood to the commission. The restoration journey had begun. Restoring HollyRood was no small task. The mansion had suffered decades of neglect, and much of its structure needed careful attention. The first priority was stabilizing the exterior, rebuilding brickwork, repairing windows, and restoring the roof to protect the interior. Contracts were signed, scaffolding went up, and workers began the painstaking job of returning the mansion to its original strength. Community support fueled the effort. Volunteers organized fundraisers, civic groups donated time and resources, and local businesses contributed materials. Every brick reset, every plank replaced, was a labor of love, shared by Winchester's people. HollyRood was more than a building. It had become a symbol of identity, a reminder of what could be achieved when a community stands together. By the late 1970s, major restoration milestones had been reached. The mansion was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1974, ensuring its recognition as a site of national significance. Governor James Clark's remains, once buried in the backyard, were reinterred with care near the front of the mansion, in a proper vault alongside his wife and children. The grounds were landscaped, and HollyRood stood proud again, ready to welcome a new era. Since that time, HollyRood has flourished under the stewardship of the Heritage Commission. The mansion serves not only as a preserved historical landmark, but also as a vibrant part of community life. It hosts weddings, receptions, civic events, and educational tours. It has become a place where the past and present meet, where school children learn about Kentucky's history, and families celebrate new beginnings beneath its roof. In recent decades, the Friends of HollyRood have carried the mission forward. They raise funds, sponsor programs, and maintain the dignity of the house. Modern improvements, including security upgrades and ongoing maintenance, ensure that the mansion remains safe for future generations. Each event, each gathering, adds another chapter to HollyRood's continuing story. HollyRood is not just a relic of the past. It is a living monument to resilience, from near ruin to renewed beauty. Its survival is proof of what a community can do when it chooses preservation over destruction. It reminds us that history is not something distant. It is alive, here, and worth protecting. More than 2 centuries after its bricks were first laid, it is a house of governors, of families, of school children, and of neighbors. It is a place of memory, celebration, and pride. And above all, it is a testament to the strength of those who refuse to let it vanish. HollyRood, where history lives on.